Support comes from the Janice Hawkins Cultural Arts Park on the main campus of Troy University, featuring the International Arts Center, the Fred Nall Hollis Museum, and the Hua Baoju Gallery. More information at troy.edu/artspark.
From Troy Public Radio, this is In Focus, and I'm Carolyn Hutchison. The Alabama Securities Commission is alerting people that scammers are using payment apps to defraud consumers. Amanda Senn, A.S.C. Director, tells us how they operate. Amanda, welcome back to the Exchange on In Focus.
Thank you, Carolyn. Always a pleasure to be with you.
Amanda, you are known far and wide as a fraud fighter.
Thanks to your program, we're creating new fraud fighters by the minute.
So what's the latest fraud that has you concerned?
These are frauds involving payment platforms like PayPal, Cash App, Venmo. Now, these platforms are becoming widely used by all age groups, but we're seeing a large amount of fraud being perpetrated on the platforms, and so our public is concerned. They're being contacted by fraudsters, and they're not sure how to tell which payment requests are real and which ones are fraudulent. And so we don't want to continue to lose money, and we certainly don't want to lose money to fraud when it comes to payment platforms.
How do you compare that with a fraudulent check?
Checks are still being used. There's a large concern that they will be stolen out of the mail. I'm sure y'all read about the number of checks that were stolen and whitewashed or written over and then cashed in a fraudulent manner. So these are all payment instruments that can be negotiated in person. Well, the payment platforms take out the physical nature of the financial transaction, and you can conduct everything through your cell phone. You can go to Apple Pay, you have a PayPal app on your phone, or you can download Zelle, Cash App, Venmo, and merely link your bank account and hit a little green button that says pay this, and it's automatic, it's transmitted, and some people get so carried away that they have multiple payments on purchases they wish they had never made. I hear stories all the time. It was so easy just to click the button, and I bought all these clothes or services on my phone, and just a very different form of payment and a convenience that a lot of people appreciate.
So before we leave the subject of checks, Amanda, there is a type of pen that the ink cannot be erased, and so the listeners who do write checks can look into that at their local office supply store. But back to what you're saying, how do these apps get open to these scams?
Well, the payment processors, are an online service, and as with any service that's linked to the internet, there will be cybersecurity risk. Some common scams that occur on these payment platforms are money flipping scams, where scammers say, if you give us $20, we can turn it into $100 if you go ahead and send the money to me. These are like communications on the platforms ahead of time or messages on your phone. Impersonation scams. We see lots of cases where fraudsters pose as, for example, PayPal representative would contact you and say, hey, we noticed that there was a payment that you haven't approved yet on your account. Can we go ahead and approve that? And we'll transmit it to your online account or your digital wallet. There's accidental payments, phone calls from people who say, oh my gosh, I accidentally sent you a payment to your account on PayPal or Venmo, and I intended it for someone else. Can you help me reverse that? And they seem so friendly, but they get you to send a payment back that wasn't a mistake, and so they're just stealing money from your account instead. And then there are accounts that have just been hacked. It's so easy now for fraudsters to get your personal information on the dark web related to these accounts. For example, you had a Cash App account that said, Kayak 21. Well, a fraudster could create an account that says Kayak 22 or Kayak 12. Let's just say I owed you money. I've given you all this money, and I sent it to, I think your account is Kayak 22 or 12, and I actually sent it to the wrong account. A fraudster could set up that entire situation. They could say my voice, and they could call you, and they could say, I've got a payment for you. I'm going to send it, just accept. And then once you've accepted, they have access to your funds, or they get you to transfer money to an account that's similar to someone you know, and they can trick you in so many different ways that fraudsters can misuse those platforms or get you to misuse them and fall victim to different types of scams on the platforms. When we're creating accounts, you have to be very careful about setting up your information and keeping it private and keeping tabs on those accounts. Check your balances, check your statements regularly, and never accept payments from people that you don't know and have not triply confirmed and verified.
And Amanda, you have given us precautions before now about the fact that these fraudsters can literally copy your voice. How do you prevent the fraud in the first place?
Monitoring your accounts regularly can detect an unusual transaction or something unusual about your account. Just being so vigilant, and it's hard to do because we're so busy and we have cell phones, text messages, phone calls. A lot of our shopping is done online and it's instantaneous. We've linked our bank accounts to so many different platforms, but making sure you make the time to monitor all of those accounts and verify before you transmit money. And that may require an extra phone call to someone that allows you to personally verify through the channels, whichever platform you're using, but pick up the phone. And then police your bank account. Make sure that your bank account that's being used on these platforms is secure. Make sure your privacy settings are maximized on all of the platforms that you're on, and continue to monitor.
It sounds like it might be a good idea to keep a paper record of your transactions to reconcile with these online accounts.
That is a method that I would say, yes, I prefer, and a lot of people still do that. I write down transactions and compare them with my credit card statements and my bank account. A lot of people will use apps to help them with this, but again, if you keep information stored through the internet or online, you're exposing yourself to a cyber incident. Now, a lot of these platforms are very secure, and they exercise a great deal of caution when it comes to handling your personal information. But I would find a method so that you can keep a record of your transactions, and maybe it's an Excel spreadsheet on your computer, printing it out, making sure you're backed up, or on your phone. Some people keep a notepad on their phone, and that's backed up to the cloud. And there are easier ways to protect your information that's stored on your hard drive on your phone.
People tend to forget. Sometimes the electronics go down. And then what do you do?
Exactly. I traveled to North Carolina after the flood, and my family was there to take some supplies. And during that period of a little over 2 weeks, that the internet was entirely down. No one could get service, so retailers were only accepting cash or checks. You couldn't pay electronically because there was no internet. So it's always a risk to put everything online in perpetuity. But we even encourage our financial firms that we audit to keep hard copies of certain records in case the internet were to collapse. Certainly you can store documents on a server off-site, but having a paper hard copy can be extremely helpful, especially when you're filing a police report or attempting to get money back in a cyber crime or other types of crime.
So finally, if you do feel like you've been fraudulently affected with your online accounts, what should you do?
Make sure you contact your bank first, because that's where the money's being pulled from. Let them know that you think your account's been breached. They can flag it, possibly help you reverse it if it's not too late. All the payment platforms now have a customer service support. They'll do their own internal investigation if they believe a fraudster has misused their platform. But you'll have to continue monitoring. At times you may need to close those accounts and open a new one. That's the safest way to ensure that it isn't further breached. But always monitor your credit reports, your bank accounts, and the account statements on those payment platforms.
Amanda, thanks for joining us on The Exchange.
Thank you, Carolyn. Always a fun time to be on your show.
Amanda Senn, director of the Alabama Securities Commission, has posted information on payment app scams on the ASC.alabama.gov website. Thanks for joining us for In Focus, which is a podcast wherever you get your podcasts. And feel free to get in touch at infocus@troy.edu. I'm Carolyn Hutchison, and this is listener-supported Troy Public Radio.